Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're skipping the standard agendas and jumping right straight into the adrenaline-fueled, totally upside-down world of one of football's most fascinating anomalies. We are talking about the ultimate disruptors of the beautiful game. You know, the players who looked at their designated perfectly painted penalty boxes and basically said, yeah, no thanks, I want a piece of the glory too. Okay, let's dive into this, because when you really think about it, what makes a football crowd completely lose their collective minds? I mean, really go wild. It's the sight of the player wearing the number 1 shirt, gloves still on, abandoning their post, sprinting the entire length of the pitch, and getting involved in the attack. It completely defies the logic of the sport, right? The goalkeeper is supposed to be the last line of defense, but when they suddenly become the attacker, man, it creates a moment of pure, unadulterated electricity. To truly grasp how wild this is, we gotta rewind and set the scene for arguably the most dramatic moment in English football history. Picture this. The date is May 8th, 1999, where at Brunton Park, Carlisle United is facing off against Plymouth Argyle in the absolute final game of the season. To say there was a lot riding on this match would be the understatement of this century. Carlisle absolutely had to win to have any chance of staying in the Football League. If they didn't, they'd drop out entirely, and in all likelihood, the whole club would literally go out of business. The stakes could not have been higher. Section 1. The Ultimate Football Miracle. Now, to understand this miracle, you have to know that Jimmy Glass wasn't even a regular Carlisle player. He had literally just arrived on an emergency 3-game loan from Swindon. He was actually packing his bags for his summer holidays when he got the call. And he walked straight into this agonizing timeline. With just 4 minutes left on the clock, the score is deadlocked at 1-1. As things stand, Carlisle is going down. But then, news starts filtering through the stadium. Their relegation rivals, Scarborough, have drawn 1-1. Suddenly, a tiny, closing window of hope opens up. If Carlisle can somehow score right now, they survive. The clock is relentlessly ticking down. With a mere 10 seconds left in the entire season, Carlisle wins a desperate, frantic corner kick. Literally just minutes earlier, the stadium announcer had screamed over the tannoy, "We've got 4 minutes to save our football club." And now, they had 10 seconds. Jimmy Glass just abandons his net and strides all the way forward into the opposition's penalty area. The corner gets whipped in, the Plymouth keeper saves a really powerful header, but the ball drops perfectly to Glass, who's just lurking right there on the edge of the 6-yard box. And he calmly, casually side-foots the ball home. Absolute pandemonium ensues. Thousands of fans immediately pour onto the pitch. Now, Glass later said people called it luck, but he'd actually prepared for it. He used to play up front as a kid, and get this, he even scored a hat trick in a 5-a-side training match the very day before. He literally saved the club. Section 2. The Statistical Marvels. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is while Jimmy Glass gave us a single moment of absolute desperation, a true emotional miracle, other goalkeepers went ahead and made an entire career out of this. Look at this absolute glitch of a number, 131. This is the career goal tally of the Brazilian legend Rogério Ceni. I mean, think about that for a second. Most elite midfielders don't even score 131 professional goals. Ceni holds the Guinness World Record for the most goals scored by a goalkeeper in the entire history of football. Let's break his stats down, because it really reveals just how lethal the guy was. Over a 22-year career playing for São Paulo, that's over 1,200 appearances. Ceni wasn't just occasionally going up for a corner and getting lucky. Not at all. He was a dedicated, stone-cold set-piece specialist. We're talking 69 penalties and an astonishing 61 direct free kicks, plus 1 indirect free kick just for good measure. He was so incredibly technical that his managers implicitly trusted him to take these absolutely crucial shots over the actual outfield attackers. Insane, right? And this brilliantly illustrates that this phenomenon isn't just about total volume. It's about mind-bending milestones stretching across the entire sport. We've got Osmir Begovic scoring just 13 seconds into a match. We have Tom King setting the Guinness World Record for the longest goal ever officially recorded, a ridiculous 96.01 meters against Cheltenham Town. That's practically the whole pitch. And then, of course, we have the legendary Paraguayan, José Luis Chilavert. Not only did he score 67 career goals, which includes a record 8 international goals, but he is the only professional goalkeeper in history to score a hat trick. 3 goals in a single match. As a goalie. Just let that sink in. Section 3. The Cult Heroes. It takes a highly specific, kind of eccentric personality to leave your net completely wide open to try and score a goal. To really understand these entertainers, we have to define a high-risk role known in the sport as the sweeper keeper. Basically, this is a goalkeeper who frequently pushes way out of their penalty box to initiate attacks, acting almost like an extra outfield defender. And absolutely no one embodied this wild playground style quite like the Colombian legend René "El Loco" Higuita. This guy used the entire pitch as his personal canvas. He scored 41 career goals and completely single-handedly redefined how far a keeper was quote-unquote allowed to push up the field. But as you can probably guess, that style came with immense risk. Cut to the 1990 World Cup. Colombia is playing a knockout match against Cameroon, and Higuita is out there trying to control the ball 40 yards from his own goal line. Predictably, he gets dispossessed by striker Rogério Mila, who easily scores, knocking Colombia right out of the tournament. Higuita himself later called it a mistake as big as a house. But here's the wild part. His coach, Francisco Maturana, passionately defended his audacious style. He simply stated that René was expressing the Colombian soul. Anger just wasn't an option for them. It was simply who he was. And honestly, Higuita's off-pitch life was just as unbelievable, dramatic, and highly controversial as his playing style. He maintained a public friendship with drug lord Pablo Escobar. In 1993, he actually mediated a kidnapping involving an underworld figure and then accepted a reward for it. Because of that, he was charged with illicit enrichment and served 7 months in jail. Tragically, that caused him to miss the 1994 World Cup, though he was later cleared. Years later, just to add to the lore, he even went on a reality TV show called Extreme Change to undergo extensive plastic surgery. He is a true cult hero in every sense of the word, just living life entirely on his own terms. Section 4. Life after the whistle. So, what actually happens when the final whistle blows on these extraordinary, high-adrenaline careers? Let's go back to Jimmy Glass for a second. You would totally think scoring the ultimate miracle goal would set you up for life, right? Well, not quite. Deeply disillusioned with poor coaching and shabby facilities at the time, Glass actually retired from football just 2 years later, at the incredibly young age of 27. He faced a really harsh reality, selling IT computers and driving a taxi for 17 hours a day just to pay the gas bill. But his story has a fantastic twist. Fast forward to 2015. A friend invites him to a hospitality match at Bournemouth, which was a club he'd played for previously. His former teammate Eddie Howe happens to be the manager. A conversation sparks, and Glass makes a triumphant return, first as a matchday host, and eventually stepping all the way up to become the club's dedicated player liaison. Let's move to and see how this builds into his new life. As a player liaison today, Jimmy Glass is the ultimate off-pitch go-to man. He basically organizes the highly chaotic, super demanding lives of Premier League players, and he does it with meticulous precision using a modern communications and scheduling tool called the Kairos app. So instead of dealing with 50 chaotic WhatsApp groups, he inputs tee times, medicals, and PR appointments directly into the web platform, pinging instant notifications straight to the players' phones. He even uses the app's surveys to collect matchday ticket requests for the players' families, completely eliminating that old-school nightmare of players constantly losing paper ticket slips. He's literally taken the ultimate unpredictability of his playing career and traded it in for total streamlined control. Which brings us to our final thought for today. We've looked at the crazy last-second miracles, the absolutely staggering stats of Rogério Ceni, the total madness of René Higuita, and the grounding real-world reality of Jimmy Glass. Today's football, it's heavily data-driven, it's relentlessly tactical, and it's highly structured. Managers want absolute control over everything. So it leaves us with a pretty compelling question. As the modern game becomes ever more calculated, will we ever see this beautiful, risk-taking breed of maverick goal-scoring goalkeepers again? Or are they just a glorious, chaotic relic of the past? Think about that the next time a team wins a corner in the 94th minute. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. Catch you next time.